Chad Hasty Show, News Talk, 95.1 FM, 790 AM, KFYO. Joining us right now, GOP political strategist. Also, he's got a podcast out, Mac on Politics. It's Matt Mackowiak. Hey, Matt, what's going on?
Morning, Chad. Doing great. How about you?
Doing great. Thanks for joining the program today. Oh, boy, do we have a lot to talk about.
Yep.
President Trump, we'll just start off. He's got a new communications almost team now from last week, correct?
I think it's just one new individual, so I don't know that that's necessarily a team. I mean, you did have Sean Spicer, the press secretary, leave, although he's not leaving for another week or two, I think. But, yeah, you have a new communications director, and then the deputy press secretary, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, has been promoted to press secretary.
Okay, so she's going to be
two positions.
She's going to be the face now.
Yeah.
At least in the press room when cameras are allowed in the press room. What do we know about the new communications director? What do you know about him?
Yeah, he's a smart, talented guy. He's a Wall Street guy. He's made an enormous amount of money. I heard someone describe him as a billionaire. He sold his company for $100 million to try to join the Trump administration a few months ago, 3 or 4 months ago. New York guy. You know, my biggest concern, is he really has almost no communications experience whatsoever. He would be a perfectly fine fit in a lot of different places, probably, even perhaps as a senior advisor in the White House. But the job of communications director does have, at least it has in the past, had very specific responsibilities. You're overseeing the communications team. You're doing long-term planning and strategy. It's unthinkable to me that a communications director in the White House would have that as their first communications job. But look, the president appears to have confidence in him. He's known him for some time. So there's a personal relationship there, and I think that is important. In his first appearance on Friday, he did pretty well. So he looks like, again, he's an awfully talented person. But, they really, I think, need to get back to the basics and really start focusing on the agenda and being much more disciplined. And that's true on the staff side. It's true on the president's side. And I just don't know that someone who hasn't ever worked in communications, not in New York, not in Washington, in an organized way, would have the ability to do that. Now, he has been on television for some time, so he does have some television experience, but that's really not what the communications job is. Communications director job is. It's not a television job. Now, that may be what Trump wants it to be, but it sounds to me like they may have the right person, but in the wrong job.
Interesting. There has been, since day one of the administration and really going back into the campaign, there's been this almost internal struggle of the insiders versus the outsiders. Are we still deeply involved in that struggle? And if so, who's winning? And does this hire prove that the outsiders are winning this battle right now?
Yeah, good question. There's been a lot of palace intrigue around this White House from the very beginning. And, it was thought that there was perhaps two teams. There was sort of the Reince Priebus RNC insider team, and then more of the sort of Steve Bannon nationalist, sort of true believer outsider team. I saw Maggie Haberman of the New York Times, who's in the White House, one of their White House reporters, did an interview with the New Yorker over the weekend, and she said it's not 2 teams, it's 6 teams. So it's very hard to know kind of who's up and who's down. What I can say is Scaramucci said from the podium, and it was released in the statement when he was announced on Friday, that he'd be reporting directly to the President of the United States. I'm just telling you that is unlike anything I've ever heard. All staff report to the Chief of Staff. That's how White Houses work. So to me, that this was a bit of a embarrassment professionally to Reince Priebus. It does make me wonder what his long-term future is there in the White House. You can't have staff inside the White House that report directly to the president. The National Security Advisor, maybe, certainly cabinet officials, that would be appropriate, but not staff inside the White House. So I'm not sure. It sounds like from the reporting that both Priebus and Bannon were very much opposed to Scaramucci's appointment, as was Spicer. Spicer resigned on the spot. He didn't want to be reporting to someone who had no experience in communications, and that's a pretty understandable view.
Yeah. Let's talk real quick about Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General. Trump came out, I guess maybe it was a week ago, and it said, hey, if I knew that Jeff Sessions was going to recuse himself, I never would have appointed him Attorney General. Now there's a story out from Axios today saying that Trump is pondering Rudy Giuliani for Attorney General, I guess to maybe replace Jeff Sessions. Is this a good idea? Is this a bad idea? Is this show that this administration is unstable? It seems to me there's a lot of turnover, or at least possible turnover in this administration this early on.
Yeah, there's a lot of chaos. I mean, let's be honest here. There's just a lot of chaos, and it's not helpful. I mean, his agenda is challenging enough to get through this Congress. We've seen that. Republicans won't even do things they've been promising to do for 7 years. And Trump is making it harder because Republicans are being asked to defend things the White House is doing, things the president is saying that are not really, part of what their agenda is and what they're trying to accomplish up on Capitol Hill. As it relates to Sessions, it's pretty clear the president remains very angry about Sessions' decision to recuse himself from the Russia matter, which was actually required by law. If you look at the statute, that recusal, honestly, was a very positive thing that Sessions did what was required. I'm sure he didn't want to do that as one of his first steps as Attorney General, give up oversight of the FBI director at that time as it relates to the Russia investigation, but that's obviously something that very much angers the president. Let's keep one thing in mind here. Let's say he fires him today. You then have the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, who's a career prosecutor, not a partisan at all, serving as acting Attorney General. He would have oversight at that point. Then, if he were to nominate Rudy Giuliani or whoever, you're going to have weeks, if not months, before that person can be confirmed. It's not clear to me Rudy Giuliani can be confirmed because you can only lose 2 Republican votes, and there would be tremendous questions about whether the new Attorney General intended to intervene in the Russia investigation. So, again, it almost seems like Trump is sort of wants to keep making the same mistakes over and over again. Firing Jim Comey caused so much of the problems he's dealing with now. It caused the special counsel to come in. It created this obstruction of justice investigation. It created so much chaos up on Capitol Hill, and now he's talking about firing his own Attorney General. Let's keep in mind, Jeff Sessions has been basically the closest supporter of Donald Trump's in the country, at least of a high-profile nature. He was the first U.S. senator to endorse him in Alabama. He ended up winning the Alabama primary. He ended up winning those southern states. I mean, Sessions gave Trump a real sort of shot of legitimacy with hardline conservatives around the country, and that made a huge difference. His top aide, Stephen Miller, became a top aide to Trump and is one of the top speechwriters. So it's striking to me that he would be considering that step, given that I'm not sure what the benefit would be. And if there was any benefit at all to the president, it would take quite a bit of time before that benefit would be realized.
All right. Well, if there's chaos over at the White House, we could also say there's chaos among Republican senators because for 7 years, and you mentioned it, for 7 years we've heard the promise we're going to repeal Obamacare, and we can't seem to get anything done in the U.S. Senate.
Yeah,
what happens if Republican senators can't get together? And at this point, I don't think they can pass anything. If they can't pass anything, what does this mean for Republicans going into the midterm election?
That's a big question, Chad. There's going to be a vote. Looks like it's going to be Tuesday afternoon. A vote on the motion to proceed. I know that's Senate sort of gobbledygook, but basically that vote allows the bill to be considered on the floor. That's a majority vote. You would hope that 50 Republican senators out of 52, with the vice president breaking the tie, would be willing to agree to allow the bill to come to the floor. Now, there is some frustration in the Senate that exactly what the bill is, the underlying bill, is not yet known. There's been discussion that it will be the House bill, the bill the House passed to replace Obamacare. There's been some discussion that it's going to be a clean repeal with a 2-year delay. It's going to be one of those two things. I guess it could potentially be the Senate bill that had so much opposition, although I doubt it. So it's going to be one of those two. We don't know which yet. We will find out soon. We will find out soon exactly, obviously which version that is. But that version is not going to be the final bill. There are going to be amendments. There are going to be changes. And so the question is, can they get to 50 votes plus the vice president between now and Tuesday afternoon? You've got 4 or 5 holdouts right now that are all looking for different types of commitments, and we'll have to see if they're able to get there. I think it's probably 50-50. If they can't get on the bill, though, my guess is they're going to move on from health care altogether. And the risk is, obviously, you're going to have the White House very, very angry about that, attacking Republicans who voted against the motion to proceed. But then you're going to have Republican voters who've been counting on Republicans doing what they said they would, repealing Obamacare. I mean, keep in mind, Republicans have already repealed Obamacare. Okay, so almost every Republican that would be asked to vote for this has already voted for it in the past. So the idea that they're trying to protect themselves from being attacked for that is ridiculous. They've already voted for it. They voted for it when Obama vetoed it. So there's a real risk here that the base of the Republican Party is going to be very disappointed, frustrated, let down, and feel betrayed by Republican elected officials in Washington. And so they are really between a rock and a hard place right now.
Not good times in Washington, D.C., it seems like, for Republicans. Matt, tell folks about your podcast, your latest guest on your podcast, and then how they can sign up for mustreadtexas.com.
Yeah, thanks for that. So on Must Read Texas, I put out a morning newsletter Monday through Friday every weekday, usually before 8 or 8:30 a.m. Top news from around the state delivered to your inbox. You can sign up at mustreadtexas.com. The governor reads it, the attorney general, a number of other high-ranking officials in the state. The podcast is called Mac on Politics. We have top newsmakers that appear, generally do one episode per week. The last 2 episodes we just posted this morning, Chris Kobach, the vice chair of the President's Election Integrity Commission that's looking into voter fraud, and then Steve Dace, the well-regarded national radio host based in Iowa, who's very, very angry with Republicans right now, and you can hear a lot of that in that interview. So you can find all that, the podcast, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and on the web at maconpolitics.com.
All right, Matt, as always, appreciate your time. We'll visit with you next week.
Have a great week. Take care.
That's Matt Mackowiak. You can follow him on Twitter.